Hey guys, this is Mike, also known as the One Fig Man out on the internet on message boards such as ourfigs.com and figbid.com. I'm here to give a video for you guys, to shoot a video for you guys on pruning. But before I went into pruning, I did want to talk to you a little bit about the tree's circulatory system or the vascular system of a tree and how it pertains to a tree going into dormancy. Before we get started, I just want to give you a quick peek of what my basement looks like. This is part of my basement, which has roughly 200 fig trees that are in dormancy. My basement stays anywhere between 35-40 degrees in the wintertime, which is great for keeping these trees in dormancy. Fig trees typically like about 100 chill hours. A chill hour is 1 hour under 40 degrees Celsius. So it's better for the trees to kind of go into a little bit of a hibernation. But let's get into the fig tree. So some people have mentioned out there that they believe that all the sap is stored in the roots of a fig tree. That's kind of not true. So what happens is there are multiple layers of a tree, and I'm going to put up a picture on the screen for you to kind of help describe this. Essentially, there are multiple layers of the fig tree, and on the outside is the bark. And if you scratch it, you'll see a little bit of green. That green is the cambium. So within the cambium, there is, after the cambium, there are these essentially xylem tubes. And the xylem tubes carry water up from the roots, through the tree, out to the leaves. And right before the cambium is something called phloem tubes. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And the phloem tubes are actually bidirectional. They carry hormones from the leaves and the nutrients from the leaves down into the roots, and it carries nutrients also and water and other things up from the roots to the leaves. Now, the way a tree produces sugar is through photosynthesis, right? And we all need sugar, which is energy. Humans need it, animals, we are animals essentially. Plants need it, anything living needs sugar. Sugar is energy, and that's essentially what it uses to survive. So the way the tree creates sugar is through photosynthesis, like I mentioned. And what happens is the sun utilizes the CO2, through photosynthesis, the sun reacts, or a chemical reaction occurs with CO2, which the leaf absorbs, and H2O, which is water, that it comes from the roots of the tree. And that reaction makes C6H12O6. So that is the sugars that comes down through the phloem into the roots. Excuse me, guys, I have a little bit of a cold here. So the xylem, again, is unidirectional. It brings water up from the roots and into the tree, and the phloem tubes go back and forth. When it gets cold, it signals the tree to go ahead and eventually seal off the tips of the leaves. The leaves start to dry out and fall off. At the same time, the tree is trying to store all the leftover sugars into its roots. Those roots convert those sugars to starches, which is a longer chain of atoms, essentially of a compound, and that chain, that starch, is held through the winter. When it gets really, really cold, though, the roots actually, when it gets around freezing, the roots actually push up that sap with starch into the tree, and essentially acts like antifreeze. If you think about it, when you add salt to water, it lowers the freezing temperature, but it also raises the boiling temperature. When you make pasta, some people put salt in the water. That increases the temperature, the boiling point of that water, essentially allowing that spaghetti or the pasta to cook faster. And the same thing on the side of freezing. When you add something to it and it lowers the freezing temperature, then water essentially will freeze at a lower temperature. And that acts as an antifreeze to help protect the tree and the vascular system of the tree in the wintertime. If you guys do a little bit of research on maple syrup, that's essentially how it works with maple syrup as far as the nutrients coming up and down. The circulatory system does flow through the entire winter, up and down. You'll see just more pushing of the fluids up as it gets closer to winter time. You'll see more starches, I should say, come up. But the fluids are still going up and down through the tree. I referenced maple syrup. In the springtime, when it's still very cold at night, all the starches come up through the xylem and the phloem, and when they tap the tree, they put essentially a hole in the tap in there, and they're trying to get into the vascular system of that tree, right on the phloem. And what happens is, as the sun comes up in the morning, it warms up, and the vascular system starts to push down the nutrients that it has in it, and it to get it back down into those roots. And essentially what will happen is the sap will flow out of the tap, and that's our maple syrup. Of course, they boil it down and they process it a little bit, and that's real maple syrup, not that Aunt Jemima or log cabin stuff, which is corn syrup and God knows what else that's in there. So getting back on track here, that's essentially how the vascular system works within the tree. It's a very high level, and I ask you guys to fact check me, because there's a lot of people that just write something down or post something on the internet, make a video, and it's not always true. I ask you guys to do some research and make sure that I'm telling you guys what is real, what is fact, and if I'm wrong, please post it below. Help educate me as well on this. So before I start my pruning here, just wanted to do a little tour around my fig maze. And you kind of see I made like a little path. Took a little bit of math to kind of figure out what is most optimal. 2 rows so I can get on both sides, and I can make sure the soil stays somewhat moist through the entire winter. Some of my 1-gallon pots, and then come through here. I have a tarp out here just to kind of protect the carpet that I have down here. And my walkway, I have some of my 15-20 gallon pots over here. And my walkway this way. So I have 2 width over here, so I can easily get back and forth between the 2, but it maximizes the spacing between the row that goes here, so I can get 2 more over here. If I put this against, if I had a pathway go against the wall, then I would only get 1 more here and maybe 1 there, but I lose the extra space over here for these 2. So takeaway on this is to make sure you guys do some planning before you start storing away your figs. Here we have my Santa Cruz White. This is a pretty decent fig that came from UC Davis. As you can see, this Santa Cruz White is kind of growing sideways, got a sideward trunk. But before we get to the clipping of the actual wood and creating scion for people to propagate, I just wanted to go through some of these cuttings, or rather these twigs with you, and look at them closely. What I wanted to show you are these nodes. On each of these nodes, we see some of these marks here. And we see like a bump on the top of it. And what typically happens is on the bottom part is where the leaf is. And the top part is where sometimes a fig would come out of. So when you get cuttings, you kind of want to look for these marks. And you can almost see like a smile that is made. This is kind of curved like this, and this is kind of flattened. You want to look for that smile, and that smile is going to tell you which side is up. If it's smiling, it's happy, and it's the right side up. If it's upside down, then you'll see like a little nose there, and you'll see a upside down circle there, and that's unhappy. So you want to make sure it's right side up to root, because if you put it in the wrong way, it will not root correctly, and the cutting will eventually dry out and die. You'll see a bunch of roots from the top. Next thing I just kind of wanted to show you is how this branching occurs. If you notice, the branches come out from the top part of the node, not the bottom part. This one's a little bit peculiar because you can kind of see the node on this side, but the twig, or the branch, is coming off from the top of the node. Same thing here. So when we go ahead and start cutting our tree, and start trimming our tree, we want to keep in mind, how is this going to grow? If I cut this here, if it doesn't dry out and die back a little bit, then we would expect to see another branch come out from the top of this node. If it does die back, then it goes back down to the next node, which is over here. You can see this one is pointing on this side, so we'd have a branch coming out this way. And so I'm just going to put the camera back on the tripod, and I'm going to go through this one more time when we see the whole tree, to kind of give an idea of what we want to do with the tree, to decide which branches we want to prune. Okay, so let me go through this one more time now that we kind of see the whole tree. What do we really want the tree to look like? I'd like to see a nice trunk and then branching up and out like that, trying to keep the inside open for air to come through. With that extra airflow, we'll see less of a chance of some of those rusts and other types of fungus or other types of bacteria growing on the tree. That air kind of aerates, makes sense to me, that the leaves, to allow them to breathe and provide better circulation, better flow. Doesn't allow the humidity and moisture to be locked in. It allows the tree to dry out a little bit after the rain, and it's better for the tree. So what we want to do is try to figure out how we can get it to come out like that. We've discussed looking at the bumps on the nodes. Where is the node? If this one is over here, the node is down here, we're going to see a branch from the top, and the branch will come out this way. If the node, though, on this side is this way, and we cut up here, the first node below the cut, assuming the tree doesn't die back, there will be a branch that comes out on that side. Hypothetically, if this was growing straight up, I'd want a branch here, want a branch here, and it kind of branches out that way. That's great, but we don't know. We cut it here, which one's going to grow? It might be this one, it might be this one, it might be a couple down here. So what we do is we cut it off here and hope that these two will grow, and maybe you'll see a third one or so. But once you get these two going, next season, you can kind of understand how it's going to be growing and trim then. If you get one down here that's going to start to grow, well, that one you can just cut off all the way. We call those suckers when they're branches that are at the bottom that are growing out. But in this case, we've got a pretty deformed tree, reaching for the sun, just maybe the way I planted a cutting. I'm not really sure, but you can see that there are a couple of pieces here that are going straight. What I'm going to end up doing, though, is I'm going to have to pot this, and I'll do another video on root pruning. First, I'm just feeling the soil, make sure it's somewhat moist, and kind of see it's a nice solid root ball. But what I will end up doing is when I repot it, I will end up potting it this way. And once I pot it this way, I will have a straighter branch going up. And this will still be my main trunk. Then, so now that I know that's what I'm going to do, I can start taking these off down here and these off down here. And up here, if I could just turn this, I don't know if you guys could see it very well, I kind of have some branches crossing. This is not good. You don't want these to rub like this. That will create openings or wounds when they start to rub for bacteria or pests to get in there and start feeding off the tree and injure the tree. This one down here I will probably end up keeping just to get another lateral branch. We know figs only grow figs typically, most of the time, on new wood. So this looks like it'll be new wood, and I want to make sure I get some figs there. So I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to leave this one, and next year I will probably prune that one. Another handy thing to keep in mind when you're pruning is sterilization. And I didn't do that with you guys, but I have my pruners here, and what I'll do is I will spray this with, well, first I wash it off after every trimming, every time I use it, and then before I use it again, I spray it with alcohol. Similar, you go to a doctor, you don't want them using a dirty scalpel. Why provide another opportunity for infection to start in the tree? But without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and start my cutting. And simply, just keeping in mind, eventually this is going to be straight up. going to go ahead and just cut that off right at the branch, right at the main trunk. And you can see it's beautifully green. And I will end up cutting this in half again, most likely, to give you guys a 2 cuttings of the Santa Cruz. And I don't know if you guys can see right there. As I was discussing in the beginning of the video, minimal sap, minimal bleeding. And that's because a lot of the, it's not freezing in here, so it didn't push up a lot of that hormone. If I did this one as much colder, closer to freezing, you'd see probably a lot more flow coming through. But here we go. That's that. I'm going to put this to the side, cut it in half, and let me go ahead and continue pruning. Okay guys, that's it. That was the pruning. Now let me just go through some of these cuttings that I have here. This is very, very green. This hasn't been lignified yet. So, you know, this isn't going to make such a great cutting. So if I go ahead and sell this, you know, I'm going to sell the bottom half of this, give you this guy, this piece right here is a great cutting. And, you know, if I have, if I'm selling you 2 cuttings, you know, I'll probably put in some of these 2 nice ones, and I'll probably throw in one of these right here as just a freebie, because it may root, but I think you'll have a better chance with the lignified wood here. Something similar over here, that if you're going to get a cutting, I'm going to give you the nice lignified part on the bottom half. Hasn't been enough hardening from the winter elements of radiation from the sun to start to lignify the top half. So this will probably be a freebie. But you know, again, here I have 1, 2 cuttings, 2 freebies, and another 2 cuttings. So that's 4 cuttings. And then this little one right here, you know, it's doing all right. I'll probably throw this in there also as a freebie for someone. But you know, these are the Santa Cruz cuttings, and Santa Cruz white. And I'm going to go ahead and get these wrapped up right away. I'm going to just clean them off in some water, scrub them up a little bit, make sure any type of dust or dirt doesn't get contaminated in the wrapping. Wrap it up, put it in my fridge, and you can find these on figbid.com. I will provide a link below in the description if you're interested in grabbing some of these. And let's go check out one more tree so you can get another idea of one more pruning. Hang out just a couple more minutes, guys. Our new generation doesn't seem to have too much of an attention span. Prefer 5 minutes YouTube video as opposed to, you know, half an hour. I remember when I was younger, I used to watch an hour show. Star Trek used to be an hour long. Who sees hour videos on TV anymore? Much less a half an hour YouTube video. So I'm just not going to go through. I'm not going to go through too much of this, but I just want to show you this Garcia Negra that I have right here. Nice thick trunk, and kind of give you some ideas of what's going on. Pan out really fast. You can kind of see how you got some cuttings going over this way, and you have a bunch more cuttings, bunch more wood going out this way. And what I want to do is kind of take out, this is the center lead, this has been growing up, and I want to try to straighten this out so it grows out this way. It's a little crooked, but I really don't want the tree to grow too much higher. I want to keep it kind of dwarfed like this. So I'm going to cut this one down over here, but you can see over here there's a node. So I don't want to cut it off here because this one's going to go out this way, and lo and behold, it will hit these. So I see this one down here. So if I cut this one up here, then this one's going to come out this way. And you can see on this side, there's no real wood growing here. So that's going to be a great place for it to grow out. And then back over here, I have all these long branches, and I'm going to try to take some of these off. This one down here, it's kind of going out sideways. I really don't want that one. This one right here, I don't want this one because that's going to grow out this way and hit our main lead. But this one right here looks nice. It's going to come out this way, but I have this one here. So I kind of want to consider all these different nodes here. This one down here, pointing down. If I cut it up here, it's going to go straight down, and that's not going to be so great of growth. You want it to kind of grow up into the sun. If it grows down, it's going to kind of start curving up, and it's going to kind of not be such a pretty tree, take up more space. So on this one, I really don't see a lot of good nodes, and that very well could happen. I could leave this one. This one's growing great. It's growing out this way. But if you see, if I pan out a lot further, it's so far away from the main trunk. What's going to end up happening is I'll get some more trees here and more wood here, and it'll start to bend, and it won't be able to support the figs. So this entire branch is really not viable because of the way the nodes are pointing over here. And lo and behold, again, we've got another growth right here. So I'm going to take this one right off right here and let this guy develop and come out this way. Perhaps this guy, as it starts to grow, will have some nodes that will go out that way. And since this one won't be there anymore, that'll be a nice tree. That'll be a nice branch. This one right here, I got a beautiful one coming up. I guess got to watch that one. I may trim this one back a little bit, because this big one back a little bit, because I don't want it to go too high. Keep it dwarfed. I have this node right here, so I'm going to cut this one up here. Let this node come out here, like we just said before, where there are no branches. So this one comes off over here. I'm going to cut it about an inch or so, maybe 2 inches above. I don't want to hit another. I want to hit it right below the next node that's up here. This is the original node that I want to keep. Cut it over here, so if there's any dieback, it dies back a little bit this way. This node survives, puts it out. Then when this one grows, hopefully it'll grow this way, and then this top piece won't be there. It won't be crisscrossing. This bottom one, that's going to come off just because it's going straight out, not very strong wood. And then this one, I'm probably going to keep this node right here. These are all great nodes, but this one right here, and let this one go straight up. Take this top piece off. And again, if we look at this right here, this will be a nice little cutting for you guys if you're interested in the Garcia Negra. And I'm going to kind of do the same kind of shape over here. I really don't like this bottom one growing. Any nodes that are going to come up and straight up are going to hit this top branch. So that's probably going to go. And if I did decide to keep it, and let's say maybe keep this node right here, what's going to end up happening if it grows out this way, even if we get another one growing, there's another node on the other side that's kind of going downward. I don't know if you guys can see it, but if I cut it up here, I'll probably end up getting two branches. This one going out this way, this one down. I don't want the branches growing down. It'll kind of create extra wood, putting more weight on the tree, and then I'll have another one here. And again, that's not going to be so strong as this one is. You can see this wood is much heavier, much thicker than this new growth here. So this one will pretty much come off. Keep this one. This one I will probably cut just because I don't want these to overlap. And that's kind of my synopsis. So I'm going to do a trimming, and then I'm going to come back and let you guys see what it looks like when it's done. Some of these down here, I could decide if I want to keep these suckers going. This one down here is definitely going to go. I might decide to take all these off and just keep the main branch going, which would be great, so all the nutrients aren't being sucked off on these, and the main crop up here, or the larger crop of all the branches at the top, will do well. These will just create some interference for air flow as well as absorption of nutrients. So let me go ahead and chop this up. Come on back, and I'll show you what a nice clean Garcia Negra tree looks like. Something with a little more straight of a trunk. Even if I did decide to repot this up, I could also turn it a little bit and straighten that out like I showed you before with the Santa Cruz White. Okay guys, so I went ahead and finished root pruning, and I wanted to show you what I have got going on here. So, I decided to keep this one. I want to see if this one will go ahead and, strengthen up a little bit, develop some more firmness on it. I kept this one over here against my better judgment, because this one and this one are going to start crisscrossing and create problems with rubbing. I'm hoping I can go ahead and start to mend this one and bring it out this way. I kept these two. I think these are going to be great that are coming up. I have a node over here, and I'm hoping that this will put another shoot out this way. I kept some of this one here. The reason being is because I thought this one was pretty decent. I have a node over here, and that node's going to put out a shoot this way, and I'm hoping it's going to go this way. And I have another node over here,
Now this one's kind of iffy. It's kind of sideways to down, but what I'm hoping is this node's going to grow out this way up, and I'll have two nice branches there. You can see the inside is kind of open a little bit, what I was talking about before. It's a little bit airy. I've got this one right here. This one's kind of going, pointing inward, and that's going to prevent some of the aeration. But I really am hoping that I could train this one, and it'll come back out, and it'll come out this way, because there's no branching over here. And I really want to fill up some more of the space over here. Kept this one as another main lead, and I'm hoping it'll put one out over here. And if this one doesn't kind of curve out, this one's going to come out and start to fill up this way. So, I have secondary pieces here, secondary shoots that can come out. So that's why if this one doesn't work out, I have this one. And the worst case scenario is I could do a prune when the tree's a little bit stronger in the summertime, and take some of the wood off that's crisscrossing. I don't like to do the pruning in the summertime because, again, that's when the insects are out, and I think it provides more susceptibility for the tree to gain an infection. But again, I kept this one. This one will grow out. Here's my node here that's already branching out. You can see if I hold the camera this way. Another one over here, and that's kind of my pruning. There's one right there, node right there. Another one right there. And, more branches the better, which means more figs for us, right, guys? And I just wanted to point out one other thing. Here it is. We're middle of December, and you kind of see some sap up here. So it goes to show you, not all the sap goes into the roots, right? It's going to always be flowing, but the amount that it's flowing is not all that great. And you can kind of see it. It's a little bit white, but it's mostly clear, as I was saying before. It's not filled that heavy white sap, that more of that latexy sap that we see in the summertime, because it doesn't have all those nutrients. This is kind of like that starchy sap that's acting as almost like an antifreeze to prevent freezing, or to help resist freezing of the tree. We obviously don't want our tree to freeze. It will kill it. What will happen is the water will expand and break those cells, or break the those arteries and veins, those tubes, those xylem tubes, and cambium. So I think I talked you guys to death on this one. It's a lot of information. I hope you stayed tuned through the entire video. A lot of information about what happens through a tree as it goes through dormancy, how the sap flows through the tree, some of the processes of CO2 and H2O with how sugars are formed, C6H12O6. And some demos on some pruning. If you like my video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button below. I'd love to have you guys as subscribers. You want some notifications, click the bell. Or if you don't want the notifications, but you want to have easy access to all my videos, hit that subscribe button and come check me out once in a while.